What you just saw is called the Winargla. It's a warrior dance. And it basically comes from our tradition with when we lived in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. One of the things that we did was we battled the European for over, basically they had a 150-year civil war with the European in regards to our land. So one of the things that the garrison developed was they noticed that when the Europeans would attack, they would attack during the nighttime, and they would never attack females and children. So what Chartier, which is our chief, the guy right there represents our chief over there, the head of the garrison of people. So what his wife told him was like, husband, I noticed, she observed this, that the women would be taken out of whichever village was being attacked at that moment. So she was like, husband, they never attack women and they never attack children. You know, why don't you, wear our clothing so that way, when they come into the center of the village, that they won't know that it's all men dressed in women clothing. So that was one of the things that they did, one of the warfares that they did. They would wait until the Europeans would gather in the center of the town, and the women would just sit there, well, they got into it, they would sit there, and they would attack them. And the men would just wait until they got into the circle, and they would basically attack them, get them out of that particular village at that moment. So that's our tradition, our over here I have an example of the outfit. It's a traditionally men dance. So usually the men are wearing this is what we call the shirt, and then it's gudu. Gudu is the skirt. So they're usually dressed in feminine clothing from head to toe. Nothing is shown, so you can't tell if they're male or female, but of course it's male dressed like men. And this is what we call the mababa, which is the headdress or a crown. And the men also wear that, and it's covering their entire head. And right below the mababa, we have the mask. And the mask is painted to represent a European face. So, and also a feminine face. So when you have the crown on, it looks similar to that. So when they're doing a different dance, it depends on where you're at. If you're in police, your tradition is the Belizean artists wearing all white, and that's representing the European soldiers attacking the women. So that's how you see it in Belize. In Honduras and Guatemala, you typically see them wearing these particular outfits. And sometimes you'll have the dancers dancing with swords. Sometimes you'll see them dancing with the shield. Again, it's representing a warrior element and everything like that. So that's our Winargla dance. This event was actually taken last year at the Garrison Street Festival in the heartland of South Central, in the middle of 48th and Hoover.
What language are you singing? What language are you singing?
They're thinking in Garifuna, and I could actually, a little bit of Garifuna, it's an Arawak, Amerindian language, so I will greet you in my language. So, Wita Julini Sumu, welcome everyone. Cheryl Morales Mudigo. My name is Cheryl Morales. Garifuna Nukieta, Pacha Kiwala. I am Garifuna. The way that you dance, the way that you do this dance is the drumming method. If you see them move, the drummer follows the dancer. So if the dancer is doing something, that's the drum, that's the beat of the drum. So whatever the drum, if you're moving, whatever, the shaking and the drum follow the dancer.
Got it.
And also with the barrels, you see the barrels over here. And I'm supposed to hold on to people's spirits. So you'll see how usually are all of them, either here or over here. We have the primera drum, we have the segundo drum, and we have the harp drum. And this is the big harp drum.
Okay.
Sometimes they come as big as here, and that represents, we usually use them in the ceremonial, because this is also used for the How many Griffin people are there here in Los Angeles?
How large is the Griffin community here in Los Angeles?
Los Angeles has the second largest garrison in the United States. This is our second year. Did we do this? We did it in 2017, we did it in 2018, and we're doing it again in 2019, November. And we do it in November because in 2004, was it 2004? In 2004, the city of Los Angeles recognized Garrison as Garrison Heritage Month. So we do it in November, and again, we have this whole entire block. And the community has been very receptive because they always wonder, well, who are you people? We hear drums, but we're a very, what is the word? We're a very shielded community because due to our history of, what is the word? I guess, due to our history of not being accepted, because in Central America, of course, you know, in Guatemala and Belize and Honduras, you're not really accepted. You have to adapt in Belize to European culture. In Guatemala and Honduras, you have to adapt to the Spanish culture. So being an indigenous culture, like the Garrison, you're not easily accepted. So when we came here to the United States, it was kind of the same thing. Based on our skin color, you have to adapt to the Black culture. You're not really accepted in the Black culture. And then you speak Spanish and you have a Spanish last name, but you know, with Spanish, so you're not really accepted into the Spanish culture. So you kind of just form this community, you know, within ourselves. And mind you, we were exiled in 1797 from our homeland. That's 222 years ago. Yet we still maintain this. We still maintain our language. We still maintain our food. We still maintain our spirituality. And we still maintain our identity. So it's very important that we continue to do things like this, not just here, do it throughout our diaspora. Because like I mentioned, Los Angeles has the second largest Garrison community. New York has the first largest. And then we have a large community in Houston, in New Orleans, Boston, Chicago, and Philadelphia, and Miami. Yes.
What's one of the food staples?
Food staples?
Yeah.
Who knows about yuca, cassava?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that's our staple food. That is what we call our daily bread. We make bread out of it, and it's a black bread. It looks white, and it actually can last for years. So we would travel with that bread. It doesn't mold or anything like that. So that's one of the things that it's just our staple. I wish I brought some of the next time I have to put some for you.
We're striking the similarity of the headdresses and the costumes of some of the dances in Mexico, where the faces are white. They represent the Spaniards and the conquest, and we have these battles, but it also represents conquering overnight, the day overnight. So it's all in the case of the mythology, but the central part is the fighting against the conquerors.
Yes, similar.
But even the costumes are very,
Yes,
there's some of the masks.
yes, they are. Yeah. Thank you. I'm sorry to take up so much.
Hola, me llamo Betty Marie, and tonight I work with ACTA, the program coordinator. I work on the TARS series with Jen. I also work building healthy communities, which is our work in Boyle Heights, and also with Promise Zone Arts, which is a cultural asset map that we collaborate with the Department of Cultural Affairs of Los Angeles. And tonight I am bringing my grandmother. She's 94 years old, and she is a presence, and whenever I'm lucky to hear her stories, I'm always enlightened. So,
Okay. My name is Aviola Janice Brown. I was invited here by my godfather, who is Isamor Flores Pina, and I'm a Santera and also practice the Lucumí culture in the community. And currently just working. I do a 9-to-5 job. I work at the Veterans Home.
Wow.
And what did you bring with you?
I brought my spirit. No. No, I was invited.
Good evening. My name is Nobuko. Miyamoto. I'm artistic director of Great Leap, and I do a lot of work here in this space at the Japanese American Cultural and Communities Center, and with some very wonderful people in this circle. And I bring with me tonight my mother-in-law, Mamie Kirkland, who is 110 years old and who just had a heart episode and overcame it. And she is still with us.
Right on.
So I brought her in this room. She's from Ellisville, Mississippi, and she's 110 years old, so I bring her here.
I am a mental health and behavioral health specialist. I work with youth that are kids that basically are self-harming, suicidal, and things like that. That's my daily job. And so working with the culture, it's my passion. It's what heals me with the work that you do. That's so, it takes a lot of you know, so I'm able to bring back my spirit and lift up my spirit when I am with my culture, when I'm able to share my culture. And I bring to me in this space all of those kids, you know, because I think that so often we get caught up in life and we lose the basic essence of who we are. And that's usually connected to our culture, wherever we come from, our spirituality. And in today's society, I think a lot of our youth have disattached from that, and you know, they're lost. So I bring their spirit here in this circle.
My name is Esperanza Maciel, and I'm actually a loan officer for Key Financial Services for the last 20 to 25 years. And I was privileged invited by our priest, Isabel Flores, who I respect a lot and I love a lot. And I also practice the Lukumi religion. And who do I bring with me tonight? It's actually all my ancestors, but especially my godfather. My godfather. Bob Dylan. Yes, who was been gone for almost 5 years. Thank you so much.
My name is Aniel Zuberi Fields. I'm the general manager at KPFK. I'm immersing myself in Los Angeles. I started managing the station a year ago. I'm immersing myself in Los Angeles because I want to take KPFK through a renaissance and really position it a place to be a platform, not just a radio station, public media platform for community organizations, and also to celebrate the diversity here in Los Angeles and Southern California.
About time. Thank
One
you.
of the programs I'm happy that I've helped launch in partnership with Immigrant Magazine is a program called Impact. I felt it was necessary that we celebrate immigrants and honor immigrants and tell their stories because of what's going on here in America. So Impact airs on, just shameless plug, Impact airs on Sundays at 1 o'clock. More personally about me, I'm a first generation, was born from an immigrant. My mother's from Antigua. And I bring my grandmother, her mother, Dada, with me here. She was a big community organizer in Antigua and worked in the market, and everybody loved Dada, especially her plantain pancakes.
You know how to make it?
Yes, I do.
Oh, we're gonna talk. Michael D. McCarty, storyteller, half mouth, do be running it, show enough. I work with ACTA in the Arts and Corrections program. I've worked in 11 prisons up and down the state. Sunday I started Valley State in Chowchilla. Monday I'll be at California City, and then the week after that I'll be in Lancaster Prison. I've been going to prison and I love it. I really love it. I also am doing a lot of programs at Black History Month, or what have you. My documentary, The Belonging in the USA, the story of Michael D. McCarty, was just screened at the Pan-African Film Festival. Oh yeah, I'm famous. Hey! And I love the work that I do. Who I bring with me, I bring the students from my prison work, because I share with them all the stuff I am involved in with arts, with prison work and what have you, and I bring it to them, and I've been doing this long enough, 5 years, that I'm starting to see some of my guys get out, and I'm loving that. And I was with Beans, what did we do? Frijoles?
Oh, slice of rice, frijoles, and greens?
Yeah, I was part of that. And me and we go way back to the festivals at Otis College that are coming back. Yes.
Hi, I'm Danielle Brazel, and in my current hat, I serve the city of Los Angeles as the general manager for the Department of Cultural Affairs.
Hey.
I was kind of raised in Los Angeles through the radical multicultural movement of the 1990s at 18th Street Arts Center, and it was a performance space, and it gave me a place to claim my own space and understand, put context to my life. I continue to be deeply committed to supporting creativity and culture at all levels in our city. And I think that our city's changing in really radical, rapid, dynamic ways. So I'm very interested in trying to find ways of supporting cultural resiliency and sustainability in all areas. I think that the cultural diversity of our town is one of the most amazing, beautiful attributes, and I want to make sure that we celebrate that in all of its richness. So I bring with me to today is my mentors, and I gotta just include my mom because she would have been 75, so that's really too young.
My name's Rosana Esparza Aaron. I'm from Kulani Studio in East LA. We're a little boutique and a studio. We're not a nonprofit, but we're a place of creative wellness. And that means that we're inviting our community in to creatively find wellness through art and poetry and any creative way to find wellness. I'm here with my mom, but I brought with me my grandmother, Mama Lupe, who's a force of nature, and she's very powerful. And with that, I wanted to mention that my mom and I have a permanent installation at the Natural History Museum. It's an altar that honors cultural diversity in Los Angeles. And just another shameless plug too is we were both cultural advisors for Coco, for the Day of the Dead movie. My mom is an Antarista. I am too, but this is my mom.
Buenas noches.
Buenas noches.
I'm Ofelia Esparza. I'm an educator, first of all. I'm a retired elementary school teacher, but I'm always a teacher and an artist. Antarista is a name that a friend of mine coined because I make altars, but I put something I learned from my mother, and my mother came to this country, but she brought her tierra, her land, homeland, and her customs with her. So I was brought up in East LA, almost 87 years ago, and I learned so much. I learned so much from her creative spirit, and I feel fortunate that I was able to use that background and that energy with my students. human spirit needs this creativity, this grounding that is, that makes us human. And so I'm just very honored to be part of a group like this, to be recognized as an elder, because I have 16 grandchildren, 9 children, 16 grandchildren, and 11 great-grandchildren, a brand new one just 2 weeks old. And so there's a lot of work to do. I still have looking to the future to accomplish my journey, and I learn along the way. I'm not only an educator, but I'm a perennial student and learner, and I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
And Ophelia is also a 2018 National Heritage Fellow.
Well, hello. My name is Anthony Zavala. I'm an art educator, and currently I'm also a student, a graduate student at Cal State Long Beach. I'm conducting research on community development programs that have an art component to them. And the person I brought with me today is my girlfriend, who let me know about this event, but
I'm Michael Bierman. I'm Executive Director of Springfield Laboratory. We actually were jailed at K6G. That's how I first learned about voting. And we also worked in the prisons. We started a reentry program called Break It to Make It, which is a partnership between Los Angeles City College, Los Angeles Mission, and us, people coming back from corrections. It was also the first time I think it was higher education on Skid Row. We also work with autistic young adults. We do mainstay shows in Los Angeles. We did a Jails to Job program, but what we're doing now is we're in Finland, and we're doing this project called No Labels, No Walls. And the idea behind it is that all these different groups, we work with so many different marginalized communities, get together, social groups, artistic groups, students, colleges in Finland, and also in LA, and we all get together and we're doing this festival called actually the Conqueror and the Conquered Festival, which really talks about the human causes of marginalization, because what we see is it doesn't really matter which marginalized community someone is, they're really facing, first of all, they're not only one thing, number one, and the second thing is that they're all facing the same thing, which is this idea of the dream society, and when you don't fit in the dream. So that's the idea behind this festival, and then we're going to do it in Los Angeles. And so I'm here bringing the Finnish time zone, because I just came last week. But I'm here actually recruiting artists, educators, people who want to get involved in the group, because the idea is that we develop this methodology in Finland with the Finnish partners, and then we come and do the same festival in Los Angeles. So if you guys want to be a part of it, let me know. Thank you. Oh, I already said everything.
Hey, once again, I'm Sean Milan. Currently, I work for HLA. I've been there for 13 years. I'm now the arts program manager. When I started there, it was very interesting because they told me what they basically said wasn't nobody from the House Involvement community without a formal education ever going to be able to work in social work. And I've been there successfully for the last 13 years, so I'm very, very proud of that. Also, part-time, I'm known as momager to the House Involvement community. I thought it was really, really important to not only let these young people know that their art does matter, but also to be a bridge for them to show them how they can actually be in mainstream America, doing the things they're doing by continuing to be themselves, as well as getting them into the doors of what they're actually, based upon the essence of their actual talent. Oftentimes, a lot of these young people, they are not exposed to the professional life of dance. But I've accomplished that by them allowing me to work with them and showing them and inspiring them of how great they can actually be. Who I bring with me is my mom, who actually passed away on Thanksgiving 4 years ago. And what's interesting enough is that documentary, or the piece that you saw from the LA Times, that basically came out the day after she passed away. So, it's just been a great experience all the way.
Hi everyone, my name is Rita Salsa, and I'm super lucky that my 9 to 5 job is with ACTA. Bendición, Alafia, Sapase. Good evening. I'm here because Isamar, Baba told me about it, although Betty could have told me she was right down the hall from where I work. But she didn't tell me. She told me it was coming, she didn't tell me the date. Okay. I am, actually, who I brought with me tonight was, the reason I said South Passe is because Isamar shared with me, reminded me of something that was going on in Haiti. South Passe is a Creole way of saying hello. The answer to that is papa and mom, not so bad. So who I'm bringing with me is all of the people that I share with who are not so bad. In other words, all good, right? Who I am is a practitioner of Lukumi, a priest of Oshun, a practitioner of Palo, mentee of Isamar in terms of learning the food traditions of my cultures. Who I am is a person who cares about humanity and compassion, change and transformation. My practice is grounded in providing access to those things that celebrate humanity inside of the things that people do and create. I just got off a gig in Long Beach where I was challenged to see humanity around institutional racism and reminded me that who you have to be is to stand for something or fall for everything. And I was in the belly of the beast for 6 months, and it was very powerful because it allowed me to support students and provide the discourse life because it's a living practice, just like my spiritual practice. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to be present as a person who practices, not like pretending I'm doing it, but practice meaning that it's a daily engagement. And the language that I use is a lexicon of transformation, but it comes completely out of a divine place that's totally informed by an African past and an American presence. And that's about it.
Hello, Minglawa. It's me. Hello and greetings. I was born in Burma, Myanmar, South Asia. My parents migrated to here in 1984, and I graduated from UC about 20 years.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, my day job is still engineer. I'm a co-founder and founded this organization, Network of Myanmar American Association, about 13 years ago. We have several programs. Currently, we're receiving grants from cultural grant from the actor. We've been receiving a lot.
I currently work for the Young Turks or TYT Network. It's a news and politics show. If you guys follow politics, we're huge on YouTube. And I'm currently a graphic designer there. I
actually inspired me to take on my current profession, which is an environmental engineer. I'm an environmental engineer for the city of Los Angeles. Have been there for 3 years. And, you know, professionally, you know, I love being an engineer. As you can tell, engineers like their job. But, yeah, it's pretty fun. It's pretty fun. However, outside of the professional realm, I am a musician, where I incorporate our traditional music of Lukumi and kind of hide it into various forms of electronic and dance music, where it's kind of like not so subtle. My artist name is Echu Beat. Echu is one of the main deities of Lukumi, which is also the deity which I am a priest of. So we like being subtle and not so subtle. But yeah, and I bring with me actually, you know, the energy of like clarity that you get from having people and being surrounded by people that love you. You know, my parents have always been such a great impulse for me, and now that, well, let you know that I'm recently married, so having that impulse as well has given, you know, what, my life a lot of interesting kind of guiding principles. So, yeah.
Another UCLA graduate.
Also, yeah.
Hey,
Definitely.
UCLA in the house.
Yeah.
I know this too.
That's where I met him.
Good evening, my name is Dor Flores. I am priest also in the Lukumi religion. And I am jewelry design. I am mother, wife, secretary, everything. And I love my work. And I am healer too.
Yes.
I am a very happy woman. And I bring with me my mother-in-law and my mother.
And I just want to add all my art influences and my passion for art and culture are from my parents.
Well, so I'm closing this circle. Okay. So my name is Isabel Flores Peña. If you're wondering about the accent, I'm Puerto Rican. We do exist in the West. No, I'm right from the island. I'm a cultural anthropologist. That's my second full-time. My first part-time is to be a priest of Oshun. I've been initiated for a long time, and right now I serve the community as a healer, as a priest, and try to communicate all what I've learned and known to whomever wants to listen to me. And right now, I'm bringing with me my mother, my first teacher, a healer in her own right that taught me the value of our traditions, and that art, you know, her specialty was female healing. She only dealt with women, and she passed her art to my wife, and through her, you know, that practice continues. My sort of claim to fame in the academia so far is I'm teaching a class that I'm really proud of. I created for Otis College of Art Design. It's called Homeboy Histories, and it's a class that brings ex-gang members with artistic talents to Otis College of Art Design and establish a conversation between artists and designers to develop socially responsible art, to help institutions to keep people away from gang and violence. So that class has been running for almost 8 years, and it's the only one of its kind in America. No one else is doing it. And you know, I'm really proud of that, and I think that it has great possibilities. We see great benefit. And you know, I'm here. ACTA is almost my second home. I'm so happy to see great friends and acquaintances, people I haven't seen. And in many ways, our community, the Lukumi community, is probably the third religious community, the most rapidly growing religious community in America. very misunderstood, very misrepresented, and probably because of that misunderstanding is what got me into academia. When I came to America, I came to work with the U.S. Health Department. I was part of the task force at the beginning of the HIV/AIDS epidemic. I was part of the task force that found patient zero. And, you know, and what got me into academia was precisely because I realized very early on that people were more likely to listen to Dr. Flores than to Mr. Flores. Because although they're the same person, I don't know, those letters have some kind of magic that people will take seriously whatever I say in front of them I'm talking about. But that forced me to get into the fray because our community needed a voice. And I'm not the only voice, but at least, you know, I'm a voice that brings clarity and connection and build bridges with other communities. So here I am. Of real present time, where spirituality speaks on the dimension of eternity. So, you know, want to destroy a culture, suppress the language, suppress the spirituality, and you have a defeated culture. So, at this time then, you know, what we need to look at is, okay, we are in the process of curating this tradition, of curating these performances, and then as conservators of that heritage, right? You know, we have to be very careful to keep the authenticity without stagnating the tradition, because traditions need to evolve. Like you very well said with the language, you know, it's okay, you have to be authentic, but you cannot be so strict that your authenticity will destroy and stifle, you know, the process. So, you know, why don't we speak a little bit about that, this idea of, like you said, you know, we don't do it like this here, we don't do it like that there. And I know for a fact that I grew up in Puerto Rico. Both my parents were priests. And I grew up learning a set of rules that I need to revise when I come to Los Angeles. But now I am with my wife, we're the mentors of our son. And we have to put things into perspective. It's like when I was growing up, when I was a young priest in Puerto Rico, this was done, it is done like this, but you need to know the old ways. So no one can come and try to mix everything. So yes, that continuity is important, but the authenticity is key, especially in diaspora groups, because, you know, I grew up in it, I was immersed in it. He grew up in it in the house, not in the outside culture, and that is an issue. So, you know, language and spirituality need to go hand in hand, but all that is framed on the authenticity. And I would like to hear your thought on it.